I went through a lot of personal anxiety and stressed over how I wanted to present my intentions behind creating this tarot deck. It isn't because I'm not clear on my intentions. Oh, I'm crystal clear. I just didn't know how much I wanted to actually share. When we've published books or have somewhat of a public platform and our name has become attached to certain values, branding, whatever, we start to worry about making sure we keep a consistent branding, which is total bullshit because I'm not a brand, I'm a person. I'm not a consistent human being. I'm a very ordinary human being who is subject to hypocrisy, contradiction, and good old-fashioned changing my mind. I think I've come to acquire this reputation for applying a rational, methodical, and analytical approach to the tarot. All of that is still true. I don't think you have to be one or the other. Choose between a methodical path versus a more, I don't even know what to call the other path because intuitive is not the right word, nor is psychic magic. Psychological based rational approach versus religion based magical approach. Look, don't quote me on that. I really don't know. Instead of trying so hard to rationalize or analyze tarot, I set about crafting this deck from a place of religious faith. So the intentions for this specific deck was very much about using the tarot to explore religion. So this part gets awkwardly personal. I've been trying to conceive a child, as in a human baby, for almost 10 years. That's a decade of trying. And for those of you who keep asking glibly, oh, Annabelle, what can't you do? Well, that apparently. This was the year that I decided to relent to fate, but of course, still on my own terms. I decided instead of trying so hard to give life in human form, I would try to give life in another way entirely. This tarot deck is about giving life. I wanted to bring a tarot deck to life, to give sentience to a deck of cards. According to me, and of course, just in me, in my world of unchecked imagination, your tarot deck, the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, is alive. It has a form of sentience, though not quite the same as our human consciousness. It's got a distinct personality. It's born of a species, which is its class of 1,000 decks in the first edition. That's the species in a manner of speaking, and the deck you possess is one unique personal entity among that species. So yes, in a manner of speaking, my intentions for the tarot deck was to give birth to children, and as wholly formed sentient beings, send those children out into the world. Again, at least that is the deck creator's intentions, and I'm sure a psychologist can completely psychoanalyze what I've done. So, what the deck actually is in reality, I can't in any credible way attest to that, and there's no evidence to what I'm saying. All I can give you is a statement of my intentions. A very precise, measured, personalized consecration ritual had to go into each and every single tarot deck one by one. This had to happen, at least in my worldview, to honor my own private intentions. That's why consecration was so important to me. Then, after single deck by deck consecration, batch consecration and letting the batch of consecrated decks sit together overnight in sacred enlivened space, and just every little step I devoted to this deck was all about giving life. It was so desperately personal, and that's why every step had to be what it had to be. For me, all the measures I took for each deck in this first edition of Spirit Keeper's Tarot wasn't about what I necessarily believe every tarot deck ever produced needs to undergo. I want to make that clear. Everything I did had less to do with tarot and pretty much everything to do with myself and just what I'm going through privately and what needed to be done on my own path with the tarot. I hope that makes sense, and more importantly, I really hope that's clear. No one is saying this is how you tarot. Instead, it was very much about what was necessary for me to process my own system and structure of beliefs. Now, the other aspect of my intentions for the deck was to reconcile the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot and the Thoth Tarot, knowing full well that many tarot readers might consider the two systems irreconcilable. So that's part of the fun, you know? Uninhibited and emboldened, I thought, okay, if I'm really going to try to reconcile these two tarot systems beyond just reading as much as I could about the two decks, what else could I do? Oh, of course, the evocation of Arthur Edward Waite and Edward Alexander Crowley, better known as A.E. Waite and Aleister Crowley. I've written a whole chapter in the Book of Maps recounting that personal experience, so I won't repeat myself here, but that was a significant part of the deck creation process. Now, as I progressed along in the cards, my intentions shifted a bit. It became less about reconciling Waite and Crowley and more about having the confidence to speak with my own voice, with Waite and Crowley parenting me in a certain spiritual sense. It wasn't about them or some academic or even metaphysical esoteric reconciliation, but it was just about me finding my own point of view, articulating that point of view, but getting nurtured by precedent. In the book, I made the analogy to a child, where in the beginning, yes, you're mimicking and pretty much adopting the viewpoints of your parents, and you happen to have parents with very diverging points of view, but then with their guidance, finding your own voice, a perspective that's somewhere in between the two parents and now wholly your own, my own. Some of you who followed the conception from the beginning might remember that originally my intention was to color in the black and white line drawings. I did later abandon that idea and went with the black and white, I promise, not because I was lazy. To me, something about the spirits that you, the one who wields the tarot deck, come to work with will be what form the color in the cards. It wasn't my place to color because the tarot deck as an entity is an enlivened book, a book that is intended to help you work with the Prisca Theologia and discover your own path, your connections to deity, deities, and how you will work with spirits, which could very well be entirely different from how I see deity, how I see spirit, and how I work with those entities. I don't know if that makes sense, but I felt like coloring it was me imposing how you should view the universe and cosmos. Keeping it in black and white kept it intangible, just a basic or core blueprint, the core truth, the core common denominator, but everything else was something that still had to be built by you, seen through your eyes, perceived through your psychic sense. Quick example, how you choose to color in the beneficent being depicted in the Archangel of Healing card, the King of Cups, for instance, could express that you see this being as more archetypal of Bridget of Irish mythology, or how you color it in would express that you see the archetype manifesting as Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of mercy and compassion, or Matsu, a goddess of the seas in Chinese and Taiwanese folklore, or maybe as a Yoruban Orisha of healing, the healer who teaches the craft to healers, or Hygeia of Greek mythology. And to me, it's so important that the cards are left as a blueprint only, and you're the one who adds color to infuse it with your point of view so that you can amplify and empower your point of view, whether that's literal coloring in or psychic coloring in, where you project color onto the cards with your magic, your craft, the craft you use to connect with deity. You are in no way whatsoever beholden to work with Spirit Keeper's Tarot in any way that relates to my intentions for the cards. In fact, I'm positively excited when people take the cards and run with it in their own direction, when people do as they will with the cards in their own way, in a way that's important and significant and meaningful, sacred to their way. To me, it means I have succeeded. It means the deck is a success. If people get bogged down by what they think are my intentions and trying to do it my way, whatever that even means, then I've failed in a big way. I've taken missteps and I've misguided. So I hope you won't feel like my intentions in the crafting of the deck has any bearing on you whatsoever. The reason I'm including this video on my creations is purely to satiate curiosity. I know myself as a consumer of tarot decks, I'm always curious about a deck creator's intentions. I want to know what was going on in the deck creator's mind, but that doesn't mean I necessarily need to agree or follow to make good use of the cards. It's just a good to know, and I hope that is exactly how you will treat this information. Ultimately, I've come to love this deck, every copy of the cards, in a way that's kind of incomprehensible. I think, for example, while packing the decks, James would sometimes place the tarot decks on the floor and I'd kind of feel myself freaking out and not liking that. I don't say anything, by the way, and of course, I'm in no way saying you can't put the deck on the floor. Heck, James did. I'm just confessing that when I see it, I don't know why. I really can't explain it, but I kind of freak out and don't like it. I know, I'm going crazy. When I handle the consecrated decks around the home while I was processing your orders, I kind of handle the decks the way you might handle a newborn child. I felt I had to be very careful, was always filled with reverence for each and every single deck. I mean, I don't know, maybe all deck creators and artists are like this with their creations, and I'm just new to this whole experience. But yeah, intent-wise, I definitely personally treated each and every single copy of Spirit Keeper's Tarot as if it were sacred, and then on some wacko level that can probably be very easily psychoanalyzed, treated each copy of the cards as one of my children.